Alright guys, welcome back to Underground Science, and in this video we're going to be talking about the basics, just a normal intro, just to get familiar with, right, of cyclic alkanes. So if you remember in our previous videos, we've been talking about alkanes, and if we just go straight into, like, let's say I drew this, right, what would that be? That would be a propane, right? And why would it be propane? Because it's 3 carbons, so that's the prefix prop. And also, it's an alkane because we only see single bonds and a straight hydrocarbon chain. So it'd be propane. But what if we drew, instead of a 3-carbon straight chain alkane, what if I drew this? Right? This is also a hydrocarbon, right? Only has hydrogen carbons, and it doesn't have any double bonds. So would you say this is also propane? Right? And you'd be partially right. It is propane. Okay, so if we do right here, this is also propane, except it's in a ring format, so it'd be cyclopropane. Okay, so what do we learn? That if it's in a ring format, you still use the normal compound name that we know for alkanes for 3-carbon hydrocarbons, right, which is propane, but you just add cyclo in front of it. So if we just did a few quick examples, right, the main ones, if I drew let's always do a compare and contrast. So if I drew, let's go next page, if I drew this, right, what would you say that is? That's 4 carbons, no double bonds, no triple bonds, just hydrocarbons. That would be an alkane, butane, right? But what if I drew this? This would also, same thing, right? No double bonds, triple bonds, or all that, and it'd be only hydrocarbons, so we know it's an alkane. So this is also butane, but it's in a ring format, so we would add in cyclo. So it'd be cyclobutane. Similarly, let's talk about this structure, right? I mean, first, let's do this. What would you call this? This would be pentane, right? Because it's 5 carbons, no double, triple bonds, and it's an alkane because it's only hydrocarbons, right? But this would also be pentane due to the same reasons that this was pentane, except it's in a ring format, so we add cyclopentane. Last but not least, what would this be? Right? This would be hexane. Why would it be hexane? Again, no double, triple bonds, so we know it's an alkane. It's only hydrocarbons, right? And of course, it's 6 carbons. That's why it's hex, right? That's 6 carbons. But what if we drew this? Right? What would this be? For the same reasons, this is also hexane, but it's in ring format, so we would call it cyclohexane. Okay, we would add the cyclo in front of it. So if we just wrote the actual name down, let's write it down here, be cyclohexane, right? And so those are the common rings that we should know. And just like we talked about in the past few videos, right, if you know the alkane butane, right, that can also be a branch off a parent chain, as we talked about in the previous video. If I drew this is a butyl, because it's 4 carbons, and it's a branch off the parent chain. It would be a butyl branch, right? So if we wrote that in a butyl branch. Same way, rings can also, right, be branches. And so let's talk about that. So if we drew a parent chain right here, and if I just drew this, right, so let's draw it a little neater. If I just drew this, what would you say that is based on our last video, right? So it's a branch off a parent chain, and it's 1, 2, 3 carbons. So you would say this is a propyl branch, right? But what if we drew this? What would you say that is? So again, this is 1, 2, 3, 3, right? 3 carbons, no double bonds, no triple bonds, only single bonds, only hydrocarbons, so it's an alkane. So you'd say, okay, this is a propane. But then, again, this whole thing right here is a branch off a parent chain. So it wouldn't be propane, it would be propyl. Right, we already went over all this, just a quick review. We already went over all this in the last video, but it's propyl. But still not right because this is in a ring format, right? This is in a ring format, so it wouldn't be propyl. You would call this a cyclopropyl, propyl branch, okay, or just cyclopropyl. Similarly, if we went through all the rings really quick, parent chain, and then we drew this, right? So deviating a little bit, if I drew, let's always compare and contrast with what we know, that's easy, right? So if this is the parent chain, and I drew this, you would say this is a butyl branch, right? Because it's 1, 2, 3, 4 carbons, that's butyl. So this would also be then 4 carbons, so this would also be a butyl branch, right? But because it's in a ring format, it would be a cyclobutyl branch. Okay, similarly, if I drew this, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 carbons off a parent chain, so this would be a pentyl branch, right? However, if I drew this, right, that would be also 5 carbons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? But we wouldn't say it's a pentyl branch. We would say it's a cyclopentyl branch because it's pentyl, but it's in a ring format, so it'd be a cyclopentyl branch. All right, and last but not least, if we drew this, right, and if we number the carbons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right away you should be, okay, this is hexane, but we already know it's a branch off a parent chain, so it'd be hexyl, right? So it'd be a hexyl branch. Okay, so what if we drew this though? Right, this is also 6 carbons off a parent chain, right? So you would also say that this is a hexyl branch. However, it's in ring format, so we say cyclohexyl. All right, so these cyclic branches off the parent chain, it follows the same rule as we did when we were talking about normal branches, right? When we talked about normally, like in the first or second video, right, or in the first few videos of alkanes, we said if we gave an example right now, we said that would be a propyl branch, and we even did steps to get here. First, you would number the carbons, right, and that would be propane. But then because it's a branch off a parent chain, you would say, you would change the ane to an il, right? And then you'd get propyl, right? Same thing here. Like if you look at this ring, this is a cyclopropane ring. So instead of saying propane, you would just say cyclopropane. But as soon as I say, okay, this is branch, it's a branch now off a parent chain, you would change it from cyclopropane to cyclopropyl. And that goes with everything. So just to confirm, right, if I drew this, so it's a parent chain, if I drew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carbons, you would, initially you would say, okay, this branch is a hexane branch, but because it's a branch off a parent chain, right, it would be hexyl. Same thing, initially, like if I just drew this ring by itself and said, what is this? You would say, okay, it's 6 carbons, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What do you know that is? That's hexane, right? But because it's in ring format, you would say, oh, this is cyclohexane, right? But if the second I say, okay, this hexane, right, this cyclic hexane is branching off of a parent chain, you would change it from cyclohexane to cyclohexyl. Okay, so you'd say, okay, this is a cyclohexyl branch off the parent chain. Okay, so it's basically everything's related, whether you're doing straight chains, right? So like this would be propane, whether you're doing straight chains or whether you're doing rings. Okay, this is the same thing except you just say cyclopropane, and that goes for all the main alkanes that we went over. All right, or not all, because as we know, you can't really form a ring with 1 or 2 carbons, right? 1 carbon would be methane. You can't have a cyclic form of methane or ethane, right? But it starts from propane. So because propane is 3 carbons, you can form a cyclopropane ring. Because butane is 4 carbons, you can also form a cyclobutane ring, right? So this is cyclopropane, cyclobutane, and then you can also form a 5 carbon ring, which would fall, 5 carbons would fall under pentane, but because this is a ring format, it would be cyclopentane. And then same goes for a 6 carbon ring, which would be, let's draw that a little bit better. A 6 carbon ring, right? Which 6 carbons would be hexane, but because it's a ring format, it would be cyclohexane. And these 4 should be like the main ones that, like you should know in order to have a good understanding of cyclic alkanes. All right, and so that's basically it in this video, and I hope I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.